Hello there. General Kenobi! How's it going, goobers? Welcome back to another weekly update. I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about this time. My weeks have not gotten any less chaotic since I moved countries. If anything, this was my most chaotic week yet, but I'm doing these weekly updates every week moving forward, okay? I said that last time, I'm reaffirming it again because I'm gonna stick to my guns this time. I've been somewhat of a degenerate this week, so I've been going out quite a bit and not reading as much as I would like to, but I did finish Nona the Ninth about 4 or 5 days ago. I finished it, and I started Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. And I liked Nona the Ninth. Of the 3 Locked Tomb books, it was my second favorite, above Gideon and below Harrow the Ninth. I would say this is the first book in the series where I left the book more confused than I entered it. Yeah, a lot of the mysteries were resolved. I got answers for a lot of the things that were going on, but it also left me with a litany of questions right at the very end. It kind of just dumped all these new mysteries on me that I won't get answers for until Electo the Ninth comes out. And I'm okay with that because this is the penultimate book in the series, and I'm okay with it kind of leaving me hanging, leaving it a little bit more open-ended because I know that things are going to be wrapped up in the next book. So I'm okay with that, but it did slightly dampen my high at the very end because I was like, oh my god, I'm getting all these answers, everything's going so great, and then boom, fuck you, just kidding, you don't get really any answers. You kind of get some, but in the end, even the answers you got just led to more questions. And I'll reaffirm what I said in the last video. I do think that this book had one of the most interesting protagonist voices out of all of the series, and really one of the more interesting protagonist voices I've read just flat out. She's a very interesting character, the main character, Nona. She's got such a childlike outlook on the world, and she's very naive about a lot of things, and it makes so many of the events in this book way more interesting than they would have been because they're very dark and very brutal a lot of times, but she's seeing them through this lens that's very innocent, and it makes the events way more interesting to see through her eyes. It also makes it a lot more frustrating sometimes, but that's okay because at the end of the day, that's what these books are about, is frustrating you. And I've come to learn that. But I really want to talk about Red Country now because I am absolutely loving it. I think Joe Abercrombie is a genius, and every single time I start one of his books, I just get so giddy, I get so happy because he's so good. And it takes only a couple chapters, and I every single time I'm just like, yes, I am back in the hands of my favorite author. And yes, I feel pretty confident saying that now, although he's not my favorite storyteller. My favorite storyteller is Eiichiro Oda. I mean, One Piece is my favorite story of all time, but I don't feel like I can compare authors to mangaka anymore. I used to think that I could kind of do that, and they were basically inseparable from each other, but the medium does make a huge difference. But I think in terms of authors that are writing in words only, I think Joe Abercrombie is my favorite. I love the way he writes. I love his characters. I love the way he describes things. I sink into his books so easily. I sink into them so fast, and I can just dig my teeth in for hours and lose track of time. They're so well paced. They're so well realized. I love his books. They're not my favorite books of all time, but I think the way he writes, the way he presents things with words is just... It's my favorite. It's my favorite. I can't deny that every time I pick it up, I am so giddy. So First Law isn't my favorite book series of all time, but I think that Joe Abercrombie is my favorite author, and I feel pretty good saying that now because when I picked this up, it was just reaffirming. This is the 6th book by Joe Abercrombie that I'm reading, and as soon as I did it, I was like, yep, this is it. This is what I want in every single one of my books. This right here, what he is doing is so brilliant. I don't want to say anything specific in case you haven't read this book and you plan on it, but there are characters from earlier in the series that return in this book, and I was overjoyed. That's something he's really good at, is bringing characters back into the fold, even minor side characters from earlier in the series. He'll bring them back into the fold and make them super important and give them development, make them super fleshed out, and he's so good at that. But this book particularly is bringing back important characters and characters I've known for a while now that, oh my god, as soon as they just said one line, there's one specific character I'm thinking of, they said a single line, and I immediately knew who it was, which by the way is just a testament to how genius of a writer Joe Abercrombie is, that I don't need any other context. I need a single line of dialogue and I know exactly who it is. And they don't even say anything. They don't even say anything like super revealing. It's just the words they said I immediately knew. I just immediately, I was like, holy crap, this is this person. And he's so good at that, man. And I think that Abercrombie is making me realize that in my stories, character really comes first. And I've heard that from so many other people in the past that like, oh, the characters are the most important part. And I always thought that was not true for me. I thought that the worlds and the plots were just as important as the characters to me. But I'm coming to realize that like, you don't really need a great plot. You don't really need that interesting of a world. If your characters are good, I will love your story. That's all I really need. I mean, ideally, it's a combination of all of those things put together. But if you have good characters, I don't really care much about everything else that's going on. If you have good characters and you have good pacing, that's really the only two things that I genuinely need to love your story. And Joe Abercrombie's plots and his worlds aren't like super interesting. They're good. They are good. I'm not going to sit here and say they're bad, but they aren't like super interesting. And I don't care at all. Like it does not matter to me. I don't think that's a negative because what's inhabiting his world are the characters. Those are the things that make the world so special. It's not the cultures and customs and places and magic. It's the people. That's what makes it special. And that's what I like now, I guess. I didn't realize that about myself. And that's not to say that I don't love it when authors do the other stuff, but that's, I think, the number one priority for me. Anyway, I'm loving this book. It's like a Western kind of. It's like medieval Western / industrialization era. It's really interesting time period that it's set in, and it's decades after the events of the original trilogy, so you can kind of see how the political climate and the way that the world has developed since then has been affected by the events of the first trilogy, which I think is so fun. I love when authors do that. Brandon Sanderson does that quite a bit, especially like with Mistborn, and I have a feeling he's going to do the same thing with the Stormlight Archive when he goes to the Stormlight Archive era 2. I think that he's going to do something similar where the world develops by the events of the original books that come out in a series, and I love when people do that. And I didn't realize that more authors did it apart from Brandon Sanderson, because that was the first time I encountered that. Obviously, I should have known, but like I hadn't really thought about it, and now I'm seeing Abercrombie do it. Granted, in a much more toned down way. It's not as explicit in your face. You just like hear about technological developments, and you're like, oh, okay, they didn't have that before, so like that's new. Clearly, they're revolutionizing in some way. Also, I did decide what I'm reading next after this book, and I'm going to read Throne of Glass. I'm going to do it. I think I wanted to read Malice. That was like my top choice. I was like, I'm going to read Malice next. I had my heart set on that for a while, but I think I'm going to do Throne of Glass just because it's a much shorter book, and I've been told that with Throne of Glass, it's one of those series where if you don't like the first book, you should continue anyway, because apparently the series gets better. Not every book is like the first one, so if I don't like the first one, I want to just kind of get it out of the way and like get started on that series. That way I don't have to get bogged down and like worry about that, I guess. And I think after Throne of Glass, I'll read one more Cradle book, maybe. I haven't fully decided on that yet. Maybe I'll read another Cradle book. Maybe I'll jump straight into Malice. I don't know for sure. But the four options, oh fuck, there's four options. Either I start Malice, I read another Cradle book, I read Sword of Kaigen, or I just jump straight into the next Joe Abercrombie trilogy. Holy fuck, why am I doing this to myself? One thing is for sure, okay, I'm starting Throne of Glass. Next month, I am reading Malice at some point, and I'm probably starting the next Joe Abercrombie trilogy next month also. I might just like split them up. Oh, that might be the smart way to do it. I read Throne of Glass, then I read Malice, then I read a Cradle book, and then I read Age of Madness, the first book in the Age of Madness. Ooh, I love talking about my TBR. This is really fun for me because otherwise I'll just sit and not be able to decide. But once I vocalize it, I come to conclusions much easier. I think that's the plan. Throne of Glass, Malice, Cradle book, Joe Abercrombie, another Throne of Glass book, and then I can just keep cycling. Ooh, wait, no, I want to read Sword of Kaigen too. Shit. Okay, hold on. Wait. Maybe I should read Sword of Kaigen before I start The Faithful and the Fallen, because otherwise I'm gonna, oh shit. Otherwise, I'm going to be bogged down by several series again. Okay, that's the plan. I take everything back that I just said. Throne of Glass, Sword of Kaigen, Malice, Cradle, next to Abercrombie book. Oh, I'm gonna have to wait so long to read Abercrombie again. Boo. Okay, but once I start that trilogy, I'm only reading one book between each of the trilogy books. So once I read, I believe it's A Little Hatred. That's the first book in the Age of Madness trilogy. I'll read that, and then one book between each of those because I want to be caught up on the Joe Abercrombie trilogy before the end of the year. So I'm gonna make it happen. That's gonna happen in the future soon. Okay, that's my TBR. Don't listen to me. I probably will change that. Anyways, now that I'm done rambling about my TBR, you're probably going to get a TBR update literally every single week, and then I'll give you one at the beginning of every month anyway, because I literally can't stop changing my mind, and I think it's a fun process to share with you. Ooh, and on top of the books I've been reading, I started rewatching Castlevania. If you haven't watched Castlevania, it's on Netflix. Very worth it. Watch more than just the first season. The first season's like good. It's okay. It's good. It's not great, but every season past that is like top notch. It's so good. I binged the hell out of that series about 2 years ago, and now there's a, I believe, sequel series coming out that's set like several hundred years in the future, and I saw the trailer for it. The trailer looks amazing, and I decided, well, I might as well just do a rewatch because I don't really want to start anything new right now with television, and I was like, well, I'll just watch something I've already watched, and I loved Castlevania, so it's the perfect time. Definitely highly recommend Castlevania. The animation is phenomenal. The voice acting is incredible, and it's got like vampires and vampire hunters and magic and sorcery, and it's fantasy. It's like dark fantasy, and it's also got a lot of humor. It's animation, so if you don't like gore and blood and stuff in like real life, this is all animated, which might be a little easier to stomach. It's one of the better adult animated fantasy series I've watched. I mean, excluding anime, this is probably actually the best one that I've watched. But anyways, that's going to conclude this week's weekly update. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you would want to hear in these weekly updates, because mostly I'm just rambling right now. But if there's anything specific that you want me to talk about, I will do it. I have plenty of stuff going on every week. Until next time, I hope you're happy and healthy. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you then. Goodbye. Bye-bye. See ya. Ciao. Later.